Okay, so we're going to take a look at the baby's face today. The features, as I said. We're going to do the eyes, get the eyes right. Then we're going to do the nose and just make sure that everything's in the right place and measure it. So make sure it's absolutely right. Now, baby's eyes are looking a bit intense at the moment. I'm just looking at the picture here. I've got it here on my right, and I can see that this is far too strong here. I think the size is nearly right, but I think I just softened it over with my blender, and it is softer looking, but it's too dark. So I'm just going to tidy that all up, make sure all the lines look right. I've done this eye. I've just left it smudgy, but I think it's pretty well in the right spot, I think. I've measured this, that's okay. It's just that I want to get this exactly right, this eye here. It's not quite right. And as you'll see, it's just a matter of a line, a pencil line, that will make all the difference. This gap here is too big in comparison to my picture. Actually, she does have quite a dark line to her iris. So it's just a case of, again, it's a pencil line there. That's more like the gap, that's better. And then this is coming across. Right, this is the charcoal, of course. I'm doing it in charcoal because it is quite dark. So I just want to get that depth in right away. And then, so it's kind of coming down and across. And then up. Just fine tune that line there. And then here, it's a lot lighter. So I'm just touching the page very, very slightly, just so I can get this line right. There is another line coming down here, and that's not quite right. I'm just going to take that out, do it again. Just put that in. Just see if I can get this. Clean the rubber off. Dark. Very gently. Yeah, it's a darker across here. You can hardly see the baby's eyelid. She's looking right up. That's her eyelid line there. And it does go across there, but it's very, very close to her eye. A little bit of an eyelid mark there. Just there. And then on this eye, you can just about see it. Her eyelid is coming very, very close to this. Now, That is quite dark, but our eyelid is just there, very parallel. And then there's a bit of shading all the way around here, which I'll do with the F. Alright, see there's no shadow under this eye because somehow it's getting a bit more. It's probably just the photos, it's not very good quality photo. This is why it's always lovely to have a really good photo to work from. You know, you've got all the detail in it then. Okay, so I'm just going to go over with the 4H all the way around, just to make sure that it's all still on there. In case I want to do any more shading at a later date, and if I don't do it that well, I want to redo it, I can always get it off easily if this is on. Have another measure, I think. Although I've traced it on, it should be perfect. I'm just going to measure where that trace line is in comparison, straight down on the page, straight down from the corner of her eye to where her nose starts. That's right, it's exactly right. So because I've remeasured it now, I know that I can just draw it in there. Slightly different angle though, it's that angle. And then it's almost straight up really. Just do straight up for now. Just a teeny little nose. A bit further. And then there's a little line. That's it. Now looking at this angle here, between the end of her nose there, nostril, to the angle, and I'm just comparing it to what I've got here in my picture, and it looks about right. So you're just looking at this. Have another look, because it's really important. And then you've got a slight bit of shading here, but there's no lines. No lines on her face at the moment. She is smiling, and her cheeks are coming up. We'll do that lighter, but there's not much in the way of lines at all. Then we've got a little nose line here. Again, slightly different angle. These are the tiny little things that make every difference. Straight across there, and then that looks okay, that line I've got there. You can just about see it. You probably can't even see that line. That line isn't going nearly to the bottom of her nose there. And then it's a kind of, you've got a bit of shading there, coming here, like that. And it's coming round about here. At this, I'm looking at this distance from a nostril where that is, and then the shading is coming from here. It's coming under that line, straight across there. I'll do a nostril in charcoal because it needs to be quite dark. So her right nostril is a bit higher, so we'll get that correct. There's a little line here, right there, and then it kind of goes quite a bit longer. Then we've got a line coming from here, which is where shading starts. That's meeting up with that Get the angle of that right. That meets with that. Yeah, that meets with that top line of that shadow there. So I'm just looking at the shapes all the time. I'm not thinking, oh, I'm drawing a nose. I'm thinking about how is that shape looking. Then there's a bit more shadow coming from under here. That's the shadow. There we are, that's it. Now, I can't see my line here, but I'm looking at the distance from this here, and it's about here. And I can see that I can see it on my photo. I can't see it on here anymore. This is why it's a good thing to check as you go. If you really need these lines, then do what I did and just check it as you're going. Make sure all those important lines are there. And then it's kind of coming out a bit. It's coming up but slightly out. And then I can see it's about that sort of distance. Now we'll put the shading in because that will help us get the size right. Up to about here where I think it is. And then we'll have another check. Put it in very lightly. So we're going over 4H. Because the baby's got shading all over her nose actually. But that's a darker bit there. And then we've got it again this side. It's coming just from the top here. Again, it's not going to be equal on both sides. It will be different. A little bit of shading there. And then there's a little bit of shading. Just want to do this bit here. It's coming down here. So you can do your shading in blocks too, blocks of shapes. Then you can fine tune it with the rubber afterwards. And I can see that shading's coming down here. Now, I quite like to put the shading in like this as I go because it helps me to measure. But of course you've got to make sure this is all in the right place. But in a way, if you get the shading all looking right and you're very happy with it and you measure it, then when you get onto the lips, I've had a trial run at the baby's lips and they were tricky. They were very tricky. The shape of her mouth, well, you know, everybody's mouth is tricky really. You just got to take your time with it. I can see that shape is coming, yeah, straight down from here, under her nose. And that's filling in that spot there. I've done the shape, I can tell straight away that that isn't right, that bit of shading. It's the wrong shape. It's actually not, it's not looking wide enough. That could be that I've taken it down too far, which I think is the case. So I'm just going to take that up a bit. And now I'm looking at that distance from top of her lips. And I'm just going to check my tracing. I think it needs to come over a bit. Don't worry about it looking a little odd, just carry on. Right, this line is coming down at that angle because her face is slightly on the tilt. And then it's kind of splaying out. We've got a bit of shadows here. There. And it's just the tiniest little shape here. That's where her lips come up.